Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Sorrells, and I have the pleasure of leading our professional services organization here at BetterCloud. Today, I am joined by three of our BetterCloud customers and innovators in the SaaSOps space. Before we begin, let's dig in right there, SaaSOps or SaaS operations. It is the practice area for IT professionals that aligns products, people, and processes to effectively support a best-in-breed software strategy and drive broader organizational transformation. We are in no doubt the midst of huge digital transformation as SaaS continues to explode. In our latest State of SaaSOps report, data shows that organizations have increased the number of SaaS applications by 30% in just this past year. And we've seen a 14x SaaS growth since 2015. The growth is exciting, but the challenge is keeping up, right? How do we truly keep track of all the software being used and how? Not to mention, how do we properly manage and secure it all? Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by three experts solving for this every day. Hiram, Mason, and Travis represent three completely different industries, all on their own journey of transitioning to being a SaaS-powered workplace, facing similar, but also different challenges. So with that, Travis, why don't you kick us off with your introduction and share some insights into your SaaSOps philosophy?
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie. Hi, everybody. My name is Travis. I work for a company called 98.6, where I'm the corporate IT manager. 98.6, our service that we offer is a mobile app that delivers on-demand 24/7 primary care via a private and text-based experience that's accessible from anywhere our patients happen to be. With the proliferation of SaaS at 98.6, and given that we don't have a dedicated SaaS operations team here, I and my team have had to focus really heavily on the automations portion of our SaaS operations. Some of the ways that we accomplish that is through SAML and SCIM provisioning through our identity provider. We use OneLogin for that, but there's a whole bunch of them out there. So the SCIM provisioning obviously kind of creates those user accounts automatically as we provision the user in the identity provider. And doing that helps us facilitate a really smooth onboarding and offboarding processes, as well as just a much more unified experience for our end users.
Awesome. Great. And Mason, what about you?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Mason. I work for a company called Bowery Farming, and we essentially grow leafy greens right outside of urban areas. So our mission is to be able to supply sustainable goods to local urban areas within like farm to table within 24 hours, which is awesome. We achieve this through using all kinds of different technologies, from AI to automation to our own custom built hardware. Within our field, it's been a great challenge for us because we've scaled so much, right? We've grown within less than a year at about less than 100 staff members to over 500 in less than 2. That's an incredible pace of growth, and involving and adopting SaaSOps as a philosophy very early on has enabled us to be more proactive in setting up automations and setting up onboarding workflows, DLP policies, and everything that basically saved us and carried us through this pandemic and set us up for success with remote work. So scaling that and taking those philosophies on very early on kind of set us up on the right track, but also we're looking forward to kind of continuing the philosophy and engaging with more vendor partners and also platforms to be able to tie the SaaS philosophy that we're looking to kind of develop for the company more broadly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I see the trends and growth in automations. Hiram, how does Workiva think about SaaSOps?
That's a great question. And so I'm Hiram Gonzalez, and I work for Workiva. Workiva provides a suite of products that allow you to automate data. So if you're dealing with a lot of files and spreadsheets, you can just add those files and spreadsheets to our platform, and then we offer tons of automation, so you can really manipulate that data to however you best see fit. And since we are in the SaaS space ourselves, we have our own philosophy when it comes to SaaS, which is we want to deliver the automations and the background engineering. So when folks start, they can just start, right? Not everyone's job is IT or SaaS ops. You could be a CSM, you could be in sales, you could be in accounting. When you start, you just want to start. You need the tools you need. And so we make it possible so you get everything you need at day one. I like to say that the future of work is not the cloud, because the cloud is here, the cloud is now. And so SaaSOps is the key to managing and really going through that cloud.
Awesome. What would you say, Hiram, is the biggest key to building a successful SaaSOps practice?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's hard to find two folks in SaaSOps that have had an identical journey into SaaSOps, right? So it kind of makes it tricky to find the right people based off their background or what they know, because SaaS is ever changing and there's no clearly defined route to SaaS. So when you want to build a good SaaSOps team, the real keys there are you want people who are open-minded, who are quick learners, and those who are just good at identifying commonalities and stuff where things can really fit. Good puzzle makers, I guess, or puzzle people.
I was just going to say, somebody can put the pieces together. Awesome. Guys, as we got started, I referenced SaaSOps being the practice that aligns products, people, and processes to effectively support software strategy that drives organizational transformation. How are your products, people, and processes changing to support scaling your SaaSOps practice and to support your business goals? Travis?
Sure, that's a really great question. I think, when it comes to IT resources, those of us that work in the IT spheres understand that we're always understaffed and, overworked and things like that. So the key for the corporate IT team at 98.6 has been empowering the other muscles of our organization to own parts of our lifecycle management, I guess user lifecycle management more pointedly. So we adopted a couple of things in the past few years. First of all, which was putting our people team first in that lifecycle process, especially for onboarding and offboarding. So our people team will, as they're onboarding a new hire to the company, they'll place them into our HR management tooling. And we were able to configure that in such a way that it auto provisions a user in Google and in our IDP. And then one of the great things that we've really enjoyed about BetterCloud is the workflows that we can configure there, where we have these onboarding workflows that are continuously monitoring a particular OU in Google. And when they see that new user pop up there, we can have it do all sorts of cool things like create a Slack channel, invite the stakeholders to that Slack channel, auto provision the sort of tools that everybody in the company gets. And then it will then actually populate that Slack channel with some of the information from our HR tooling, so we can kind of get everybody on the same page and use that channel for the consolidated communication. The next phase of sort of involving the additional stakeholders and inviting owners into that process was we have been empowering all of the hiring managers to take part in this process by defining the specific tool sets and access that those individual roles that they're hiring for, that those folks need. So we sent out a survey to all of our hiring managers and said, check all these boxes for everything that the people on your team need. And then we maintain a wiki space where that documentation lives. We also provided a feedback loop for these managers to continuously come back and say, hey, actually, this has changed. We do need this. We don't need this anymore. And as they submit that information to my team, we're then able to update those other BetterCloud workflows that are role specific for those individual roles. And then we're able to trigger those roles through our IDP by just clicking on one button where we grant them the specific role-based role in the IDP. And then that triggers a workflow in BetterCloud that can provision the tools that have to live outside of our SAML and SCIM provisioning land.
That's great. Travis, I want to dig in a little more. What was that turning point that changed the way you interacted with HR and even other organizations across the business, from being more of this reactive team to more this proactive strategic partnership? Yeah,
that's interesting. So given the fact that we are a 24/7 clinic, we have had doctors in every time zone of the US in order to sort of facilitate that 24/7 care. So we've always had somewhat of a distributed team, but really when the pandemic really came on full force and we had to start working remotely, our company transitioned to a work from anywhere model where we're not thinking of these really centralized office locations. Because of that sort of distribution, we had to think more asynchronously, right? We had to think about how are we going to allow people to engage in a process, potentially 24/7, depending on where they're working and when they want to be working. So by empowering these hiring managers and our partners with our people operations and HR teams, we give them the freedom to sort of make changes and make requests sort of ad hoc rather than on these fixed timelines. That was really one of the biggest driving forces behind that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Mason, how are your product, people, and/or processes changing to support your SaaSOps practice and also supporting business goals?
Awesome. Yeah. So for us, it's been more of a holistic approach. We actually went back to our roots, our engineering roots, and kind of sat down in a conference room with all of our teams at the same time, or leaders of their teams, and kind of went through it with them in terms of what their needs were to incorporate them within our SaaS philosophy. So with the idea of reducing any pain points during their onboarding process, offboarding process, organizational changes, moves, much like Travis earlier, we ended up going with the people team or our HR partners to lead that effort, and basically led by them, but supported by IT, which is building out the automations to actually make all of these things happen, right? And as part of that, right, going beyond a little bit beyond that meeting and the heads coming together, we actually went a step further and started implementing identity management, security operations, or security initiatives around identity management, MDM, and RMM efforts, with the goal of implementing them within our SaaS philosophy as well. This would link pretty much our HRIS system, our ERP system, and our finance systems all to talk to each other to make sure that there is one source of truth across the company and a cohesive way to be able to track everyone's progress, applications, access, equipment, and any other support needs that they may have.
Great. Thank you, Mason. Guys, I hear it, growth and automations, and it really seems that you guys are leaning into this whole concept that IT's role is really shifting, right? From functional to strategic in the past year in particular. In the state of our SaaSOps report, 76% of respondents reported being more or much more strategic over the last 12 months. So IT is now solving challenges with SaaS and transforming the employee experience and becoming these trusted business partners inside of their organization. Hiram, I would love to hear from you. How do we get a seat at the table, right, to become this more strategic partner in your organization's growth?
That's an excellent question. So it kind of varies depending on your business and how your business approaches things. What I've seen commonly work across the various companies I've worked for in the past is that you really need to, what most businesses understand is money, right? Profit. especially if you're a for-profit organization. And the best way to get a seat at a table is by showing your organization, this is what you're spending money on, and this is how we can create efficiencies to lower that cost, to create more profit. When you can show that, especially if you can show the data and the analytics, like actually put a dollar amount to it, that is how you get a big seat at the table. Just show that, and your voice will be heard.
Perfect. Follow-up question for you. Looking into 2022, what is your team's top priority?
Yeah, our top priority is identity governance. And so it kind of varies where you are in the kind of lifespan of SaaS, where you are as a company, where your team is. And at some point down the road, you'll hit a wall, which is, I know what identity provisioning is and what identity providers are, but there's also this other aspect, which is identity governance. So you have your identities in some sort of directory somewhere. How do you actually organize and put the type of automation into it, so that way if this person starts on this team, they get exactly these applications and these levels of permissions in each of those applications as according to their job title or some sort of combination of attributes, right? So that way it's not those teams that your IT team supports coming to you saying, hey, this person needs Adobe. Hey, this person needs to be in this random Slack workspace. This other person needs to be in this other thing. Instead of you being reactive, identity governance helps you become way more proactive. And then if you're audited, if your company is audited for various whatever compliance needs, this helps your audit team paint a way better audit or compliance picture or story, just because you can say this person has this specific admin access because X, Y, and Z, and they don't have to dig, and you're going to be nice and peachy. So that is what our goals are going into this next year and what we really want to focus on.
Awesome. Perfect. Mason, what advice do you have in terms of getting a seat at the table to become a strategic partner in your company's growth?
So for us, it's actually very, very grassroots. We actually are very team focused. So I'd say join as many teams as you can, talk to as many cross collaborative partners as you can. And one thing that's, I mean, from a organizational standpoint, in every organization that I've worked for, one of the major key proponents to pushing your efforts forward has been getting a champion to be able to back you up, right? So that starts at the top, advocating at the top for power and influence to be able to be put towards SaaS operations, more broadly towards security and stuff like that, more critical IT business focused areas that are just lacking, right? So once we get a partner, a champion, we talk to the people we need to talk to, get involved in the projects that you need to get involved in. That's one of the major key, I guess, pitfalls in terms of IT and implementation of SaaSOps, is basically making sure that you're in all the rooms that you need to be and in all the conversations that you need to be, to make sure you push this initiative forward. At the end of the day, with this, to kind of answer your follow-up question as well, where we're going is basically we're trying to build an intelligent and self-healing system where this is all pretty much governed by our HR team. So our HR team will be able to enter in a user based on whatever permissions they allow, and our services like JumpCloud and VMware and a few other partners that we've teamed up with. The whole process for onboarding and offboarding should be completely automatic. And IT should only be involved when something goes wrong, and focus on building more critical infrastructure for the business.
Awesome. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. On behalf of my fellow panelists here, we would like to take a moment to thank the SaaSOps and IT vendor partners and communities for all the work you do day in and day out to keep businesses thriving. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and that you're able not only to take away some great perspective on SaaSOps and how it's working inside of these different organizations,
but also some considerations and real world next steps when it comes to your team's journey of embracing this shift to the SaaS powered workspace.